It's all over the headlines. Real estate is in a downward spiral. We're seeing the worst downturn in the real estate market since the 90s, and I'm here to tell you that the numbers don't lie. Sales transactions are down quite a bit year over year, and home prices are down from earlier this spring. The headlines are true. It is a buyer's market without many buyers out there. The market is what it is, and a property is only worth as much as someone is willing to pay for it. Sellers, some distressed, and some just ready to move on in life, are realizing in real time that after a 20 to 30 year bull run, where you could find a buyer for nearly any property in the GTA, that when the market turns, real estate is actually not very liquid. Finding a buyer for your home, even after price reductions, is not guaranteed, and that's an uncomfortable feeling. In Canada, homes are seen as perhaps the largest piece of a homeowner's investment portfolio, which becomes more and more important as someone progresses into the retirement and twilight years. And if that home price shrinks, either in value that you can extract or in your ability to sell, well, we're not as wealthy as we thought we were. This is an ugly truth that we've been facing the last year as rates have come down to seemingly save us, but with no positive result for the real estate market. But I'm here to tell you that there's actually a silver lining to bad real estate news. First, it brings attention to the real estate market for buyers and sellers alike. For buyers, news stating that home prices are down and sales are down and that it's a buyer's market, all this is kind of positive for them, even if they have a house to sell. It signals that the home that they're going to buy may be more affordable and achievable, when in the not too distant past, it was actually very expensive. So this news obviously does have a little bit of a positive spin, especially for first-time home buyers and anyone previously priced out of the market. Anecdotally, I've been seeing some pretty good traffic in the open houses that I've been hosting this fall, which is an early indicator for interest and curiosity in the market. That open house traffic has not translated into buyer agent showings and doesn't always transpire to market activity. I saw busy open houses in early January as well, and yet we saw how the rest of the year played out. But buyer interest can translate into subtle market action. I've recently been contacted by a couple first-time home buyers in the last few months, one of whom told me they never thought they could buy a home, and they just bought their first condo townhouse. We're still kind of early in the bad news cycle. Big ideas like buying a home take time to percolate in someone's mind, and in the fall, with Christmas coming up and everything happening, not a whole lot of people will pivot to home buying quickly, so there won't be much market change for the remaining year. For sellers, bad real estate news is hard proof that the market is not what it was. As a realtor, I see the state of the market before it shows up in the news, and over 2025 have had to explain to many sellers that last year's prices are not in the picture. This has been met with skepticism. But with poor news in the headlines, sellers that are listing are going to be more intentional on selling, and those that are not resolute on selling may decline from participating in the market completely, potentially keeping inventory low in some neighborhoods. But news tends to focus a lot on the negative, and there is a lot to be negative about going into 2026. There's a huge cohort of mortgage renewals to the tune of $400 billion across Canada, with higher interest rate renewals, a pivoting Canadian economy, there's job losses, a US trade deal that still seems far from being completed, and dealing with inflation, all while looking at a possible recession on the horizon. But there are things that could propel the market forward as well. There's a lot of pent-up demand from the last 4 years of below average sales. The 30-year average residential resale transactions for Toronto is 33,000 transactions between houses and condos. And since 2022, the last 4 years, we have been well below that average. So there's a lot of people that want to move and need to move but have not yet moved. And today we have lower home prices, we have lower interest rates, we have a lot of selections in the type of homes you can buy. We have a return to office in most workplaces. We have mortgage renewals forcing buyers to reconsider their living circumstances or to stay put and lock in their mortgage for another 3 or 5 years. And now we have the news headlines telling everyone that this is the reality and this is the way it is. Things are definitely uncertain and risky, but with all of this, I think we're nearing a point where the risk for the home buyer is looking like it's worth taking on. This past October, Toronto quietly saw the highest number of sales transactions of the year. it was pretty subtle. It only beat out June sales by about 32 transactions. So it's not surprising that no one that reports on Toronto real estate has mentioned this, but I'm remarking on it because outside of 2020, which was it was an outlier of a year, we never see a fall peak higher than the previous spring peak. If this market traction continues into November, Toronto may be in for an active pre-spring and spring market in 2026. And what do I mean by this? I don't mean home values will see a bounce back. I think in Toronto, home prices will probably remain stable at where they are. And actually in some parts of the GTA with rising unemployment and in areas that saw a lot of investment, will almost certainly see prices continue to fall. Next year, we'll have a lot of listings come onto the market, meaning there will be a lot of selection, but I think we'll finally have buyers coming back to legitimately buy a home. That was this year's challenge. This year's challenge was that there were very few legitimate and serious buyers. But as first-time home buyers return purchasing lower-priced inventory, it allows upsizers to move up the home ladder to their next property until we get to the downsizers who finally sell their large homes, and the cycle of home ownership continues to turn its wheels. So that's it for this video. If it's your first time seeing me, I'm Jonathan Lee, a Toronto realtor based out of Etobicoke. Next month, I'll be reporting on the 2025 real estate wrap-up and making my predictions for 2026. So if you like this type of content, subscribe to catch my next video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Cheers.